By Sri Lanka's best internet package for online learning and online working with many amazing offers. Call 1212 for more information. Sri Lanka Telecom.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, on fire, oil tanker New Diamond taken to safer waters.
The fate of the ship will be planned with the consultation of the Director General of Merchant Shipping, owner of the ship, Sri Lankan agent for insurance.
Verdict of the head of state. The President lauds centralised healthcare service over anti-COVID-19 success.
Had we been in a situation where healthcare was a subject completely devolved to the provincial councils, Sri Lanka's response to the pandemic may have been different.
But left baffled over public's disenchantment.
I find it puzzling as to why so many of our citizens seek healthcare externally.
Foiled escape. Colombo Crime Division constable suspected of drug racketeering arrested in India. Neighbour welfare matters. Health authorities urge people to not rest until India brings its COVID-19 situation under control. All that and much more coming up on First at 9. This Saturday, the 5th of September 2020.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9.
Nava Sunlight Sakura. Then Dikukal Pavatina Sakura Mal Suandin.
Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhamike Kanayaka. Let's start with your local stories. Oil tanker New Diamond has now been towed to safer waters after a massive fire that broke out within the ship was doused following an operation that extended for about 35 hours. The Panamanian flagged ship caught fire en route to India as a result of a boiler explosion. Meanwhile, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa paid tribute to all the parties who contributed to this operation, averting one of the biggest environmental disasters in the world.
The New Diamond oil tanker carrying tons of crude oil and diesel caught fire in the deep sea last Thursday, about 38 nautical miles off Sangaman-Kanda Point in the eastern seas of Sri Lanka. The fire broke out as a result of an explosion in a boiler in the ship's main engine room. Upon the news of the fire breaking, the Sri Lanka Navy and the Air Force immediately took measures to douse the fire. The firefighting operation was also supported by several other Sri Lankan institutions, also joined by the Indian Navy and Coast Guard ships. Following a massive 35-hour firefighting operation, the spread of the fire was brought under control last evening. But the firefighting continues due to blazes emerging from within the engine room.
We were informed that the distressed ship has been towed out of Sri Lanka coastal area and now it has positioned 42.5 nautical miles away from Sri Lanka. At the moment, the fate of the ship and the rest of the activities will be planned with the consultation of the Director General of Merchant Shipping, the owner of the ship, and the Sri Lankan agent and the Sri Lankan agent for insurance for the ship.
The ship is now at a safer distance from the coast, but still the fire is emerging within the engine room. Still the firefighting crafts and all other aircrafts are still continuing the firefighting, and tugboats are keeping the ship in one single place. We receive support from Indian Coast Guard and Indian naval vessels and Sri Lanka naval vessels and Sri Lanka Coast Guard and Air Force. All ultimately got together to handle the situation, and we were able to avert the situation. We are very much proud that as a country, as a group, we did our best to save the country as a total effort.
At the time of the fire breaking out, the ship was about 38 nautical miles off Sangaman-Kanda Point in the eastern seas, and by last afternoon, MT New Diamond had reached about 20 nautical miles closer. However, measures were taken to tow the ship to a distance of 42 nautical miles using a deep-sea tugboat, the LP Winger. The Navy, however, cautions that there is a risk of an emergence of occasional fires due to deep-sea winds. Meanwhile, 4 bracers of the International Rescue Committee are scheduled to arrive in the island tomorrow, and the owners of the ship have handed it over to a marine salvage company to carry out its future activities.
වෙළඳ නෞකා අධ්‍යක්ෂ ජෙනරාල්වරයා විසින් නම් කරන ලද ගලවා ගැනීමේ ජාත්‍යන්තර සමාගමේ තක්සේරුකරුවන් 4 දෙනෙක් හෙට උදෑසන වන විට දිවයිනට පැමිණීමට නියමිතයි. ඒ අය නාවික හමුදාවේ අධීක්ෂණය මත නෞකාව වෙත සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම ගින්න නිමා අවසන් වූ නෞකාව වෙත රැගෙන යාමට බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. නැවේ ඉදිරි වැඩ කටයුතු කරගෙන යාම සඳහා ගලවා ගැනීමේ සමාගමක් නම් කොට තිබෙනවා. එම සමාගමේ විශේෂඥවරු දිවයිනට පැමිණීමට නියමිතයි. අපිම ගින්න නිවා දැමුවාට පසු අපි නාවික හමුදාවේ අධීක්ෂණය යටතේ ඒ අය නෞකාවට ගොඩ වී තක්සේරු වාර්තාවක් ලබා දීමෙන් පසු ඒ අයගේ නිර්දේශ මත නෞකාව ඉදිරි කටයුතු කරගෙන
Meanwhile, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has expressed his gratitude to all parties involved in the firefighting operation of the oil tanker New Diamond. Taking to Twitter, President Gotabaya appreciated the contribution of the Sri Lanka Navy, Sri Lanka Air Force, Sri Lanka Ports Authority and the Indian Defence Forces to douse the fire and in conserving marine biodiversity by preventing a disastrous situation out in the ocean.
Enjoy a very smooth shave with the Bic Easy 2 razor. Bic Easy 2.
Now, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa today impressed upon the importance of having a centralised healthcare system, saying that the results of Sri Lanka's fight against COVID-19 would not have been the same had the service been completely devolved to the provincial councils. Though the President lauded the island's healthcare system for defeating the coronavirus, he expressed bafflement over members of the public seeking private healthcare, shunning the country's free healthcare system. Addressing a ceremony today, the head of state also expressed his commitment to creating a healthy nation.
The 2-day workshop titled Good Intern, organised by the Government Medical Officers Association at the Manil Vatanagananda International Institute of Buddhist Studies in Bullagala of Kelaniya commenced this morning. The event was presided over by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa.
Sri Lanka has been largely spared in the COVID pandemic due to decisive early action taken by multiple arms of the government and the truly outstanding effort of the health personnel and the community level, ably supported by our armed forces, dedicated themselves to stop the spread of this disease. The outstanding success Sri Lanka achieved in this endeavor came at a time when even some of the most developed countries in the world were unable to respond adequately to the pandemic. In many countries, patients who were infected with this virus were turned away from hospitals and left to fend for themselves. I'm also proud to say that Sri Lanka, despite still being a developing country, managed to face this situation very successfully because of our free healthcare system. Not even a single patient suspected to being infected with COVID-19 was turned away from our healthcare system. The preparedness of our public health infrastructure, combined with other arms of the government, ensured that proper contact tracing and isolation took place, thereby preventing community transmission of the virus in Sri Lanka. The robust testing mechanism we were able to set up in a short time supported this effort by identifying asymptomatic patients and ensuring their isolation and proper care. These achievements are why Sri Lanka's success in dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic has been justly commended by international institutions, including the World Health Organization. The effectiveness of Sri Lanka management of the COVID-19 pandemic signifies the strength of our public healthcare system. In this context, I must confess that I find it puzzling as to why so many of our citizens seek health care externally. On many occasions, even grants provided through the President's Fund and other welfare schemes in the government are used to cover hospitalization in private hospitals. While there is certain need to further strengthen the state healthcare system, I believe it is time that we encourage greater use of the facilities we have within this system. Some innovative thinking towards absorbing the state-generated funds into the public healthcare system will ultimately benefit the citizens. Another important lesson emerging from the COVID-19 pandemic has been the importance of maintaining a centralized healthcare system. Although the administration of most of Sri Lanka's state-run hospitals are vested with the provincial council, fortunately there were enough hospitals nationwide under the management of the health ministry. Had we been in a situation where healthcare was a subject completely devolved to the provincial councils, the efficacy of Sri Lanka's response to the pandemic may have been quite different. Our recent experience reinforces the importance of maintaining responsibility for certain functions with the central government. One of the core pillars of development is the maintenance of a healthy population. I am determined to work towards creating a healthy nation during my tenure as President of this country. My recent visit to every corner of Sri Lanka exposed me in depth to many real issues that our fellow citizens face. It may now be opportune for us to introduce a new concept, that of the public health nurse, who could provide basic healthcare services to those in very rural communities that lack access to other healthcare infrastructure. This community level health infrastructure would immensely contribute towards creating a healthy nation.
Moving on with other local news, police have made more drug-related arrests, with one particular suspect being a close associate of another prominent underworld figure who is currently abroad. But more importantly, the police constable attached to the Colombo Crime Division, who is linked to the recent find of 23 kilograms of heroin from Sapugaskanda, has been arrested in India. Now let's take a look at the latest on Sri Lanka's war against drugs and the underworld.
The Valana Anti-Corruption Unit had launched a raid during the early hours this morning after its directive was tipped off. The first arrest during the operation had been a mason from the area of Mahanama Junction in Panadura, who had been in possession of 60 grams of heroin. Later, a three-wheeler driver who had sold heroin to the suspect had also been arrested from the Mahanama Mawata. Under interrogations, the three-wheeler driver had said that a person who is operating a tea stall in the area of Valana is dealing heroin with the use of the Easy Cash platform as a payment method. Afterwards, the Valana anti-corruption personnel had raided the house of the tea stall owner in the area of Kurupumulla in Panadura. While searching the house, the police have found 424 grams of heroin. Later, another suspect who had dealt drugs in cahoots with him had also been arrested from the same area with over 3 grams of heroin. Police have also found 31,000 rupees in his possession, believed to be profits of drug dealing. They said that a prison inmate is the orchestrator of the drug racket.
කොතනද තියන්නේ? පාන්දුලාවට කොයි වගේ තැන් වලද තියන්නේ? ලයිට් පාන්දුලාම කියන්නේ. මේ හෙරොයින් ටික ඔබ කවුද දුන්නේ යාට? කරම්බෙරින් කියලා අපිට ඕනේ නැහැ. නමක් තමයි ඔයාට ඕන වෙලාවට කතා කරලා ගන්න බෑ. ඒ අපිට ගන්න නම්බර් වැඩ ගන්න නැහැ. සල්ලි තියන්නේ පාරද? ඔව්. සල්ලි තියලා ඔයා බලන් ඉන්නේ නැද්ද සල්ලි ගන්නවද? නෑ මම බලන් ඉන්නේ. ඇයි බලන් ඉන්නේ? නීතියට බයද නැත්නම් මේ ව්‍යාපාරම්කාරයට බයද? දෙපැත්තම තියෙනවා.
A suspect involved in a heroin racket and organised crime was arrested yesterday from the area of Enderamulla after the Intelligence Division of the Police Special Task Force was tipped off. The suspect is identified as 23-year-old Keselvatte Kasun, who is a close associate of the underworld leader figure Dinuka Madushan, alias Keselvatte Dinuka, who is presently abroad. The suspects had been in possession of 5.68 grams of heroin, and the police have also seized a lorry, 3 motorcycles and several sharp weapons. It has also been revealed that over 183 million rupees had been transacted by the suspect via mobile banking. Meanwhile, in Kamburupitiya, police have found a magazine and 29 rounds of ammunition used in T-56 firearms from under a coconut tree at the home garden in the area of Vitiyala. Although the owner of the residence had altered the police, it is reported that he has an arrest record pertaining to various allegations, including illicit liquor distilling in the area. In a separate development, 4 inmates who had been remanded by the Kuliapitiya Magistrates Court with regards to 4 drug-related cases had broken out through the roof. Various police teams are deployed in search of the 4 escapees who broke out of the Kuliapitiya remand prison, with roadblocks also set up across the town of Kuliapitiya. In another major development, upon information received by the Rameshwaran Maritime Police, which said that narcotics, gold and various other goods are being smuggled to Sri Lanka from India across the international maritime boundary line, Indian police has conducted a search operation. Police also say that a Sri Lankan who attempted to enter Tamil Nadu illegally was detained by the Tamil Nadu police. When the Indian police attempted to question the suspect, he had attempted to flee. Later, the police had apprehended him and had handed him over to the Marine Police of Rameshwaran. The suspect is identified as 30-year-old Pradeep Kumar Bandaranayaka, a resident of Monaragala. Further investigations reveal that the suspect is a police constable attached to the Police Crimes Division. It is also reported that the suspect had transported the stock of 23 kilograms of heroin seized from Sapugaskanda on the 2nd of this month to the area. The person apprehended pertaining to the incident on that day is the police constable's brother. The police constable in question is currently being held at the Dhanushkodi Marine Police.
We will see you once more on the other side of this break. Bear with us.
Ceylon Bank, the bank with a heart.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, Chief Epidemiologist of the Epidemiology Unit, Dr. Sudat Samaravira, stresses that Sri Lanka cannot relax over the COVID-19 pandemic despite the country's success in tackling it, and especially since neighbouring India is far from being out of the woods. In the meantime, a group of 164 persons who underwent quarantine at a Sri Lanka Air Force facility in Vanni were released this morning upon successfully completing the process.
With India recording the highest daily number of COVID-19 cases from the world, we are reminded that the threat of the coronavirus pandemic still carries an all too real and present risk and could only be a step away from wreaking havoc in the country once more. However, despite the victory Sri Lanka obtained against the COVID-19 virus, health authorities continuously urge the public to continue to adhere to health and safety protocols so that the country does not end up in a predicament similar to that of India.
මේ COVID-19 අපි මිදෙනකොට මේ ආයතනවල අපි ජලකකාම හයි කළා සබන් තිබ්බා අත හොදන්න දැන් ඒ තත්ත්වය අමතක වෙලා ගිහින් තියෙනවා සමහර තැන්වල ජලකකාම වල වතුර නැහැ සබන් නැහැ අත හොදගන්න අපේ තිබිච්ච සෞඛ්‍ය ආරක්ෂිත ක්‍රමවේදයන් අනුගමනය කිරීම ඉතාමත්ම පහත මට්ටමකට වැටලා තියෙනවා COVID-19 රෝගය මේ අවස්ථාවේදී අපේ සමාජයේ වාර්තා වෙන්නේ නැති වුණාට ඕනෑම අවස්ථාවක අපේ මගහැරුණු COVID-19 රෝගියෙක් හෝ රෝගීන් පොකක් කොහේ හරි හිටියොත් ඒ තුලින් මේ රෝගය සමාජගත වීමට ඉඩ තියෙනවා. එසේ සමාජගත වුණොත් අපි අද වෙනත් රටවල් වල අත්දකින්න ඛේදවාචකය අපේ රටෙත් අත්දකින්න ඉඩ තියෙනවා. උදාහරණයක් විදිහට ගත්තොත් අපේ ඉතාමත්ම අසල්වාසී රට වන ඉන්දියාවේ අද වන විට COVID-19 රෝගී ඉතාමත්ම ශීඝ්‍රයෙන් රෝගය ව්‍යාප්ත වෙනවා වගේම විශාල මරණ ගණනක් සිදු වෙනවා. අපේ අසල්වාසී රට COVID-19 රෝගය වගේ තියෙනකොට ලංකාව කොයි විදිහටවත් ආරක්ෂාකාරී නැහැ. ඒකට හොඳම උදාහරණ තමයි ඕස්ට්‍රේලියාව, නව ශ්‍රීලන්තය වගේ මේ රෝගය හොඳින් පාලනය කරපු රටවල් වල නැවත වතාවක් ඒ රෝගය පැතිරීම නිසා ප්‍රදේශ වසා දැමීම, ඇදිරි නීතිය පැනවීම, කාර්යාල වසා දැමීම වගේ කටයුතු කරන්න සිද්ධ වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඒ තත්ත්වයට අපි නැවතත් ගියොත් අපේ රටට සිදුවෙච්ච ආර්ථික හානිය, සමාජීය වශයෙන් සිදුවෙච්ච හානිය නැවත වතාවක් ඇති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. යම් කිසි විදියකින් සමාජයට යනවා නම් ඒ යන හැම අවස්ථාවකම අපි මීටරයක දුරස්ථභාවය පවත්වාගෙන යෑම ඉතාමත්ම වැදගත් වෙනවා. නිසි පරිදි මුඛාවරණයක් අපේ නාසය සහ මුඛය වැසෙන විදියට පළඳින්න ඕන. ඒ වගේම තමයි අපි අත සබන් යොදා සේදීම නිතර සිදු කිරීමත් ඉතාමත් වැදගත් වෙනවා. එහෙම කළොත් විතරයි අපි මේ ලබාගත් ජයග්‍රහණය අපිට දිගින් දිගටම පවත්වාගෙන යන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ.
In the meantime, Sri Lanka accounted for 3 COVID-19 cases today, all identified as returnees from India, Bahrain and Qatar. Meanwhile, the country's total number of COVID-19 recoveries rose by 11, taking the island's overall figure to 2,918. Sri Lanka's overall number of active COVID-19 cases is now at 188.
Now, former Minister Mangala Samaravira and several officials of the Criminal Investigation Department have been issued notice to appear before the Presidential Commission of Inquiry on political victimisation on the 16th of this month. Several witnesses testified before the commission today as well as yesterday, and let's see how the proceedings unfolded.
Colonel Shammi Kumararatnam of the State Intelligence Directorate appeared before the Presidential Commission of Inquiry on political victimization yesterday. He told the commission that then Director of the Criminal Investigation Department, Interdicted Shania Besekara, used the immense power he received from the Government of Good Governance to weaken the army intelligence units and to prevent the Rajapaksas from returning to power. He added that Inspector of Police at the CID Nishanta Silva once contacted him and asked him to work in accordance with what Shania Besekara says and that the government will do anything mooted by Shani. Colonel Kumararatnam went on to say that officers of the CID exerted pressure on him during numerous occasions, urging him to say that it was former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa who gave the orders pertaining to the abduction of disappearance of journalist Prageet Eknaligoda. The witness noted that he was summoned to the CID a month before the presidential election of 2019, with its officers intimidatingly stating, quote, "You have always given the same answer pertaining to the Eknaligoda incident. Will you be giving the same answer today as well?" unquote. He stressed that such action make it evident that the Government of Good Governance attempted to prevent Gotabaya Rajapaksa from becoming president even at the last moment. Meanwhile, summons were issued today for former State Minister Vijayakala Maheswaran and UNP's Jaffna district candidate in the 2015 general election, Kumaran Sarvanathan, to appear before the commission on the 17th of this month. The summons were issued pertaining to the testimony given to the commission today by Police Constable Jnanalingam Mayuran, who was attached to the Chunnakam police station. He told the commission that Vijayakala Maheswaran directly intervened in freeing the chief suspect in the gang rape and murder of the girl Vidya Mahalingam Shashikumar. Constable Mayuran added that posters depicting an Elam state with the images of former PM Ranil Wickremesinghe, Vijayakala Maheswaran and candidate Kumaran Sarvanathan were posted during a propaganda rally ahead of the 2015 general election. The witness noted that OIC Chintaka Bandara, however, removed the posters in question. Furthermore, Sarvanathan and Vijayakala Maheswaran had severely criticized Jaffna Police OIC Chintaka Bandara, saying that the removal of the Elam posters had led to Sarvanathan's defeat in polls. He went on to say that all these things were enacted by IP Nishanta Silva upon the bidding of Vijayakala Maheswaran.
We will see you shortly. Welcome back. This is First at 9. Now, oil prices fell more than 3% yesterday and posted their biggest weekly decline since June as fears of a slow economic recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic compounded worries about weak oil demand. Brent crude, the international benchmark, fell 3.2% to settle at $42.66 a barrel, while the US West Texas Intermediate fell 3.9% to settle at $39.77 a barrel. Brent fell 5.3% from last week, while WTI lost 7.4%. With the coronavirus pandemic still present in the world, India marked a record spike in the daily number of COVID-19 cases, the highest recorded from any country, and currently accounts for 4 million coronavirus cases, making it the third country to surpass that mark. In the meantime, on a positive note, Russian scientists say that the Sputnik 5 COVID-19 vaccine has showed signs of immune response and that there were no serious side effects from administering the vaccine.
Russian scientists published the first report on their Sputnik 5 coronavirus vaccine and said that early tests showed signs of an immune response. The report published by the medical journal The Lancet said every participant developed antibodies to fight the virus and had no serious side effects. Meanwhile, India's total coronavirus cases surged beyond 4 million with a record rise, making it the third country in the world to surpass that mark, following the United States and Brazil. According to data from India's Health Ministry, the country added 86,432 cases of the COVID-19 virus. In other developments, Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, says that vaccine nationalism would only slow down the response to the pandemic. The WHO Director General went on to say that the first priority must be to vaccinate some people in all countries rather than all people in some countries, as this is an economic imperative.
In our interconnected world, if people in low and middle income countries miss out on vaccines, the virus will continue to kill and the economic recovery globally will be delayed. So, using vaccines as a global public good is in the national interest of each and every country. Vaccine nationalism will prolong the pandemic, not shorten it. When we have an effective vaccine, we must also use it effectively. In time, as production increases, we want all people everywhere to have access to vaccines. But initially, when supply is limited, priority must be given to vaccinating essential workers and those most at risk, including older people and those with underlying conditions.
That's it from all of us from First at 9. Thanks for being with us. Bye-bye.